Hello and welcome to MoteCon Session 2. I'm Eleni Karitzis and this is Brittany Horn, and we are super excited to be here today for our second session of MoteCon. And I know Alex did a fantastic job earlier in the day. I like to say earlier in the day for you, everyone joining us in the US, but it was actually in the morning here because I am in Australia. I am Mote's community leader and I am delighted to bring everyone MoteCon this year. It has been a challenge organizing it, obviously being on the other side of the world with the time zone difference, but I'm so grateful to be here for at least one of the sessions live with our wonderful Mote ambassador leader, Brittany. And Brittany, you are an expert in your field. You are an instructional technology specialist in your district. You have two young children whose one of their birthdays is today, so happy birthday. And we're delighted to have you hosting our session today. So say hello, and we're excited to have you.
Hey everyone, welcome to MoteCon 2023. If you didn't get to join the session earlier today, I heard it was absolutely amazing. You can always go back and watch it later, but I'm really just excited about the lineup we have tonight. It's going to be amazing. I hope you'll be inspired and join the conversation. If you haven't already, introduce yourself on YouTube, who you are, where you're coming from. I'm just super excited. This is a great way to spend your Friday night. And if you're like a lot of us, you just started school. We started on Wednesday or you're about to start. So let's use this time to get encouraged and get ready to use Mote in our classrooms.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brittany. Now, you let me know when you are ready to start, and then we can get started with your session. Throughout the session, I just want to remind everyone to use the comments. So whether you're joining us on YouTube or Facebook today, to use the comments and add that. We can see all of that and support you guys and ask the questions. We will have Q&A at the end of Brittany's session, so I will post them, but make sure you say hello. I can see wonderful people joining us from all over the country. For the US country, I imagine the Australian country are just waking up on this chilly morning, but welcome to everyone where you are. And Brittany, we'll go ahead and get started with you.
We're ready. All right, guys, I am so excited to share with you today the power of Mote. You know, you've probably heard it said several times throughout MoteCon, but Mote is a simple tool in the sense that it allows you to add audio to doc slides, really about anything with QR codes and links. But when in the hands of creative educators, Mote can be so powerful. And I'm excited to share how it especially can be powerful in the realm of literacy. We know that literacy is reading and writing, but really literacy is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We emphasize that a lot in our district, and Mote really kind of becomes the star when it comes to the speaking and listening piece. So I am excited to dive in. You'll see I'm going to give some shout outs to Northwest ISD teachers because as an instructional technologist, I have the best job ever. I get to encourage and support teachers who make Mote come to life in classrooms. So you'll see that a lot. And we'll dive in. I love this quote from NCTE. It says, place value on reading, writing, speaking, listening, and creating in your students' work. Ensure that reading and writing are not the only ways in which students are acknowledged and celebrated for taking in ideas, expressing their thoughts, or demonstrating understanding. And I think Mote really helps us make this quote come to life. So in our quick time today, you are going to notice a lot of celebrations and shout outs given. In fact, Alex Herrera is going to be joining us in this MoteCon session at 6:30. So I'm going to share one example from her class, but you really want to pop on and hear from her as she talks about working with her emerging bilingual learners. So these are just some other teachers that have helped this session come to life. I want to give a quick shout out to our ELA coordinator because partnering with her to help with some of the ELA templates you're going to see really just makes me feel like these are super powerful and they really are going to help our kids with literacy. And then I work on a team that's just amazing, the most creative, fun minds out there. And I'm sure everything shared was touched by them a little bit. Today, we're going to start by really the whole time camp out with Mote in Google Slides. I know there's power in QR codes, which I love, and a lot of different tools, but all the examples you'll see actually fit in slides today. So we're going to start the session by sharing inspiration, just some quick snips of the ways teachers have used Mote in the classroom for personal voice, fluency, and student ownership. And stick around because I'm excited to share 3 templates that you can then customize and use with your learners despite your content, your grade. Hopefully you can customize those to work for you. I love this student quote. She actually Moted it in, but she said, Mote helps me in my writing creation by letting me read what I wrote and letting me do recorded voice captions. I really like Mote. I didn't know if her voice would come through in the stream, but it's that personal voice. It makes her writing her own, and she has voice in it. So these are just some ways that I've seen Mote used for literacy in the classroom. First, this is a 3rd grade class doing a nonfiction writing example. Some of the kids even turned the Mote icon into the animal they were researching and talked from that point of view. And then, simply taking maybe books that they've written in Google Slides. And as an extension, this 4th grade teacher said, you can turn that into an audiobook with Mote. So they really got to practice their fluency and talk that way. And I wanted to share this 2nd grade example. I don't know if you guys have heard in younger elementary grades, but it's like, why are we doing so much digital? Don't we need to have like the hard copy, paper and pen skills? And I love how this teacher made it a hybrid because I feel like that's the real win, right? When we get the hard copy skills, but we also pull in the technology piece. So they wrote their essays hard copy. Then they took pictures and put them on Google Slides and used Mote to read the pages aloud. It allowed the students to have that fluency practice, make it their own. And then she also allowed them to have an about the author slide at the beginning where they talked a little bit about themselves. So that just took that right and made it fun. It felt like something published that could be shared with families and teachers. This ESL student did not do a write hardly without Mote. It really helped him get his thoughts out before writing. And then after writing, he would use Mote to read it and make sure he had everything like he liked it. So I really do encourage you to learn more about EB students in Alex's session today at 6:30. But I just wanted to show that that's one way Mote is helping these students with literacy. This is an example from Alex's class. And like I said, just a run through of some examples to get you excited before we dive in. But this student created their own digital library. So it says books I've read and books I've made. So he put different book titles. So some of them he created, some of them he read. And then if you were to hover over this icon, it's him taking you through his library, talking about the books. So what a way to create a culture of reading. And then this was shared so that everybody in the class could see each other's. A lot of good ideas here. And we'll share more on reading celebrations here in a minute. I don't know if you guys have seen the holiday card exchange. This is where cards can be exchanged from class to class. Should totally check it out if you haven't seen it already. But the theme was snow globes this past year. And Miss Bass, a 3rd grade teacher, sent digital cards across the globe using this snow globe. But her students did poems and they would read those poems and they linked them in here. So I imagine just the faces of the kids from the other side of the globe getting Fort Worth cards, but not only just a poem written out, it's the student talking about the poem. So another way to make that personal connection, even from afar, with people that you don't even know. Okay, one of my favorite examples. This class had a class pet named Franklin. It was a class pet turtle, and they actually got to research all about turtles, and they would talk as if they were Franklin using Mote. So they could actually, learn about turtles and then talk about Franklin's life from the point of view of Franklin. So if you were to hover over Franklin here, they had a lot of slides. But if you were to hover over, you would hear Franklin talking, and that's these students right here. So I really want us to think about how can we use Mote to talk from another perspective. It could be the student's own voice, but it could be talking from the perspective of a character, or in this case, a class pet. And some of you might be thinking, some of these students are changing the icon. How do they do that? So since I'm using my camera for MoteCon, I thought I would just show you here. So when they go to add the Mote, which you're going to see here, they right click and go to replace image. And then they can add a quick selfie. They can upload the image from their computer. They can add anything that they want to. So think about talking from the point of view of Abraham Lincoln or, the turtle, or even adding a selfie. And we'll look at an example with selfies later. But that's a really neat way to change that icon into whatever you want it to be. Okay, we're about to wrap up just some of these examples, but I love how this teacher just took things a little bit deeper with depth and complexity icons. So really she would have these icons that get kids thinking deeper, but this was a second grade class. So as opposed to just typing out all the responses, students would talk in and they were able to expand a little bit more on the multiple perspectives icon in this case, or even just justifying thinking. So thinking about literacy maybe outside of the ELA classroom, talking about, in this case, a science example, but you could justify your thinking in math or anything like that. So I want everyone that's following along to think about how can your students share their voice? Before we dive into templates, did these just spark any ideas for you? This is an art piece actually, and the student made that art piece come alive by changing their Mote icon to the art piece that they made. And these art pieces actually had to deal with the students' personalities. They did like a personality test and then they made like a drawing and then they spoke about them. So very, very simple, but the kids were so proud of these creations. So shout out to this GT teacher, and the kids just had a lot of fun. So yeah, if you have ideas, feel free to put them in the chat, but I was hoping that's a good way to get us started with just some real life class examples. Okay, so the first template that I'm excited to share is one you can use now. Beginning of the school year, it can help you introduce Mote to your kids. It can help you build relationships with them. It can help them generate some ideas for maybe a future write, and it really just helps your classroom culture. So this is having students connect with emojis. It's called the About Me Emoji Edition. So I'm going to go and let you just see this happen in action. So what the students are asked to do is they would get this slide and they would pronunciate their name, first of all, so the teacher would know how to say their name. And then they would drag in 3 emojis that represented their summer. If you teach secondary, you could even have the kids add their own emojis. But since I'm primary elementary, I just put a bank of emojis there. Students, it's easy for them to connect to emojis. Anybody can see a sunshine and think of like, oh, I know something I did in the sunshine over the summer, right? So for those kids that are really shy, that maybe if you just ask them out what they did this summer, wouldn't say anything, they can pull in the emojis and connect. Mote is where then they are asked to expand on that. So, okay, now tell us about it. Not a whole lot of rules here, just tell us about what you did. And this teachers start to get some stories. It's differentiated because some might just say, I went to the beach, and some might go into a full story of when they were at the beach. It also asks, so it's a 3-2-1. It's then 2 emojis that represent what you enjoy, and then 1 to represent what you're excited about. So you can start thinking about your kids. You could go home, at the end of the week, you could look back at these, you could listen to their voice, some of their stories, and then find a way to connect with them when you come back to school. So, oh man, Sarah, I had a hard time connecting with her, but I see that she loves art. I'm going to ask her about that on Monday. So it's kind of a cheat sheet for the teacher to come back and see what those kids liked. And obviously you can change out these questions if you want to make them a little bit different. So I want to share, there's my mouse here. I saw this exact template happening today in our classrooms, so I captured it and put it in my slides. So this is real life at 2 of the different campuses. It was so fun to see the students really just enjoying this activity. I even put the timestamp turned in today, August 18th, 8:14 a.m. So I just want to show that this can be something you turn around and use right away with your students. They really enjoyed it, and it really was pretty easy. This was a 5th grade class, but I think you could do this with all grade levels. There's the texting coming out today, y'all. We saw it today. Okay, so if you like this template and you're like, sign me up, I want to use it, you can just go to these slides, tinyurl.com/Mote literacy. I'll share them throughout the presentation, but I have linked in all these templates so that you can make your own copy, use it however you want. Feel free to tag us on Twitter and say how you used this in your classroom or even customized it. Okay, template number 2 is all about goal setting. By the way, shout out to Shelly Hall. I see some of her comments coming in. Me and Shelly used to work on the same team, so she knows how amazing me and ISD instructional technology team is. So goal setting is something that's so important, but not only teachers setting goals, but when students set their own goals. That's where the true ownership comes in. So this template's going to help us with that. I love this quote from the Writing Strategies book. Our ELA coordinator pointed me toward this quote, and I thought, wow, this template is just this quote coming to life. It says, helping kids to articulate clear goals for their work and supporting them with strategies and feedback to accomplish those goals makes a huge difference in their ability to succeed. Really focusing on articulating clear goals for their own work is huge. So once again, this template can be customized, but what our students would do is they have a rubric, and the three main things that they focus on in our district are language conventions, development, and structure. And that's probably pretty universal. So what they would do is drag in their main focus. So they don't have to know their exact goal. They just think, okay, I really want to work on like my lead. So you pull that in, and then you're going to use Mote to expand why you chose that goal. There's also some boxes to type in what strategies are you going to use to meet that goal. So it puts it on the student. Very easy to choose what you want to work on. And then you're expanding, put what you're going to, how you're going to do that. And then you come and visit it at a later date and you reflect on your goal. Maybe you have your right next to you, your writing that you did, and you think, okay, how did I do on my leads? Well, now I can use Mote. They don't get that writer's block saying you have to reflect by writing out everything and having it perfect. They just get to talk in. How did they do? You can be honest. You can set the same goal, but then hopefully they would do this maybe once a quarter, once a unit. I talked to a teacher today who plans to have this slide 4 different times. So they're going to reflect at the end of every quarter on their writing goals and then make a new one. She also had the fabulous idea of sharing this with parent conferences. So sharing the slides with the parent gets to hear their kids set their own goals. They get to see their write, and they see how the students are empowered to set their goals here. So, yeah, I'll be excited to hear if you guys think of other ways that you could use this template. I know that you could change this maybe to be a reading rubric or just a different kind of rubric. This was just one that we shared with the LA teachers for writing. Okay, and then once again, I have this template that you can snag, you can customize, you can use, please use away. But I think it's really important, the reflection piece. And then also the fact that the teacher could go in and leave feedback anytime. Maybe there's a student who's struggling a little bit and they want to encourage them on this template. It's shared, between the teacher and the student, and then the family member if they choose. Okay, we're going to look at another template and just some ways that Mote can be used for collaboration. This actually was shared last year, but it's too good not to share it again. This was a tug of war template. It was put out a few years ago by Esther Park, but it really helps with literacy in the sense that students are writing persuasive rights. They need to learn how to take a side. They need to know reasons for why they believe this or that. So she put the question, 4-leaf clovers are lucky, kind of just a silly little statement, right? But the students have to decide on a continuum how much they agree and disagree. They would record their Mote. This teacher had them use the arrow keys, which I think was very wise because you get a bunch of Mote speakers on the slide. So if they use the arrow keys, they know exactly which one's theirs. And then they right click and replace the image with their selfie. So then there's name attribution. We know which Mote goes to which person. The teacher can see who's responded, and then she can click on any of those to hear them. So I thought that was really great. And that template will allow you to go in and put any statement that you want. In professional development this summer, we said the beach is the best place for summer vacation. And man, to hear some of the responses, people were very passionate either about the beach or like, no, I don't want to go to the beach. But it was really cool to hear people take their side. And then you could have a right follow this. And then once again, how they changed that speaker icon just by right clicking. Okay. Eleni actually shared this on the Mote Ambassador or with Mote Ambassadors and Mote teachers. So I highly encourage, if you are listening and you have not become part of the Mote community, a Mote certified educator, or a Mote ambassador, to kind of think about that. It's a really cool way to get to know other educators. But we took the template that she shared, and then I shared that with our ELA coordinator in order to use this for reading celebrations. Our students do reading celebrations at the end of every unit. So the instructions would be to claim a slide, add a picture of a book that lingered with you during the quarter, and then add their Mote recording sharing their voice. So once again, total shout out to Eleni for sharing this with the Mote community, but then how we took this and then shared it with students. And you guys, Eleni is going to be on sharing with us after this at 6:00. So you are not going to want to miss all the goodness that she's going to share. But in this template, students can take, we call it a book selfie, but our Chromebooks, we're Chromebooks and we have a self-facing camera. So they just hold up their book, snag a picture, and then they would drag in their Mote. Now, what I like about this, it is collaborative because this was assigned so that everybody could edit on the slide. So they just go claim a slide, put their title and author. So not only are they held accountable to saying like, I read this book and here's why it lingered with me or why it was significant, but they can see everybody else's. It would be neat if there's some librarians out there to maybe partner with teachers. I could see this being on like a TV in the library, just cycling because it's showing the books that the kids connected with. That could be cool. even making a QR code and maybe putting it by like your classroom library so they could start just having that culture of reading and talking about books and enjoying books. So once again, Eleni put this out, and it was just so cool to go through and see all the different books that people read. Of course, mine has Dragons Love Tacos too, because I have a 5-year-old as of today. But you can have all different kinds of books here. So if you like this template, you can have it there to snag. And this was just edited a little bit to be used for our reading celebrations unit in Northwest. All right, so I want to hear from you guys. Which of these templates are you most excited about and why? They are all linked in here, so feel free to comment in the chat or just to think to yourself, like, okay, of these 3 templates, what am I most excited about? How am I going to use it? Make your copy, and I would love to hear how you're using these. I feel like these templates are really just good for allowing students to have ownership. You know, coming in, some students just literacy is not their thing. So voicing in with Mote helps them start getting their thoughts out, helps them start connecting, and then seeing themselves as someone who has ideas to generate and ideas to put in the world. And two of these templates are actually on the Mote Learning Zone. So if you haven't hopped on, we maybe just need to put the link out there in the chat at some point, but it's a really great idea, a really great way to get classroom ideas. There's a blog post, multiple blog posts every month where you can go and get some inspiration. So building classroom relationships, that was the emoji one. You can read about it, snag templates, class book recommendations was in there. And I just put this so that you could continue to bookmark that site and go back and see the things shared even after MoteCon. And then lastly, we can't finish up this session without talking about the power of feedback. Obviously, our students are really proud of what they do. So anytime you have the chance to get in and leave feedback, it's very powerful. Mote not only makes it personal, but it makes it efficient and easy for the teacher. This 5th grade teacher, her students wrote Google Docs, turned them in the classroom, and she said, I will not leave text feedback again. She said, I feel like it was more worth my time. I used to just give them a grade and type like a few little things. She said they never read it, but they will always listen to my voice. And I think that's so true. You always listen to somebody's voice note, but very rarely are students going to like read the full comments. You know, some will, not all will. And she said that Mote was a really easy way to leave feedback on her students' writing. So that feedback piece just has to be referenced as we finish up here. So we do have some time for Q&A, but I do want to give, once again, a shout out to the amazing Northwest teachers who inspired these slides. Hop on and watch Miss Herrera later. Eleni for her writing celebrations template. That was such a great idea. Kelly Palmer, our ELA coordinator, for kind of pairing the writing goals rubric. We worked together to pair those up with Mote. Esther Park, the tug of war template, and the NISDI team, the best thought partners and smartest people in the universe. So I really appreciate you guys listening in. The tiny URL for this session, it's tinyurl.com/Mote literacy. You can go grab all of those templates that you want to use. I would love to connect with you and answer any questions that you have. Feel free to use those links. I'm happy to connect that way. And we will do Q&A, but I don't want us to miss the upcoming MoteCon sessions. I hope you're planning on staying for the evening. I hope that you'll use the mote.com community link and just start thinking about maybe becoming a Mote educator and just kind of sharing ideas and continuing to learn with some of the best people.
Helps if I unmute myself. Thank you so much, Brittany. That was amazing. And you stole a part of my presentation, but that's okay. I'll forgive you. And I think that's what I love about the Mote community. You spoke about there how we've got Mote Learn, and there are so many templates available that this amazing community has put together. So make sure you check out the Mote pages because there are so many things there that you can just simply take and use with your students tomorrow. Now we have got a couple of questions coming through, so I'm going to pop them up on the screen.
Yeah, I just saw this one come through too. Thanks for commenting in. So our district does actually purchase Mote. You can use the free version. Absolutely. The time is just 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes or a minute and a half, 3 minutes.
Yeah, a minute and a half, I think. It's
minute and a half.
So I've got to remember what it is.
Right. But they can put as many Motes as they want to in a slide. So like if they're reading different parts or something, they can have different Motes throughout the slide. So you can use the free version. I mean, I love how our district purchases it because the Mote extension is already pushed to all of our students. So the students aren't having to install the extension or anything like that. It just shows up on slides for them, which makes it very easy. With that said, don't let it hold you back if your district doesn't purchase Mote, because you could still totally use it and have that power of voice. Really, I mean, I rarely hear Motes that are super lengthy anyways. So I would say go for it.
And with that, Brittany, you can also, if your district doesn't purchase it, you can also purchase yourself. So you can just get your own little subscription to enhance your students and your learners in the class.
Love that. Thanks for joining us.
We have had some amazing questions and comments throughout the chat. So make sure everybody always, any questions, I know Brittany is available for the rest of the evening to answer any of those. I'm just going to pop up next a little loop with the upcoming presentations. Give Brittany a little break. If anyone needs to go grab a drink or anything, to then come back and join us, because we will then have Stacey joining us in approximately 4 minutes. So we're just going to go backstage and we'll see you guys very soon.
Hi, Stacey.
Hi, I'm so excited to be joining you.
I am so pumped for everybody to hear from the Stacey Rochan. I remember your MoteCon session last year where you were talking about Mote and how it integrated with Canva. And I thought, wow, she has so many great ideas to share. And I know you will have so many more tonight just based on the title of your session. So if you guys don't know Stacy, she's an educator. She's a keynote speaker. She's an ed tech teaching consultant. She's also the author of Tech with Heart, leveraging technology to empower student voice, ease anxiety, and create compassionate classrooms. I know that she is very passionate about the inclusive and equitable classroom, which you're going to see throughout her session. And then also, I think this is one of my favorite quotes. It says, she's passionate about shifting away from a culture that praises the first hand raiser to the one that provides every individual with a platform to have their ideas seen and heard. And I think that is just such a fabulous quote. I love that so much. So without further ado, I'm going to let you take the stage, Stacy, and make sure you guys, ask questions throughout in the chat. We'll pull them up and just join this conversation with Stacy as she presents tonight.
Thank you so much. And I was so inspired by your session. I just watched it and I caught some of the sessions from earlier today, and so many great templates and ideas have been shared throughout. And it's just so wonderful to see. A lot of my presentation today, I'm going to start with some of the background and the why before I actually dive into some examples. So I hope that that will be a nice little balance with all of the amazing resources that people have been sharing out today, to kind of take it back for a second and talk about why these ideas are so important for us, why we need to incorporate voice, why we need to incorporate the features that Mote provides for accessibility, for translation, for all this stuff. And I will show some examples also. But again, I'm just like feeling inspired right now. So I want to make this easy for people to have access to the session afterwards, to all the slides, or if you want to interact with me now. I did make this into a little bit of a Pear Deck, my other very favorite app, so that you can interact with me, that you can leave some thoughts on there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link into the chat of the YouTube live. So you should see that coming up. And you can choose to engage, or you can choose to just watch. Even if you're watching on the recording, I'm going to leave this open for a while so you can still interact and engage there. All right. And then you can click on all the links too. So let's go ahead and get started. So as just a quick warm up, if you are on live right now and you want to set a little bit of an intention, what is related to the topic of this session, related to Mote, what is one thing you're looking to improve or change in your teaching practice? I like to ask this question because I like to start with the problem first before we dive into solutions. So I hope that by asking this question to yourself, that you can perhaps frame what you're looking to get out of this and then choose what resonates with you most based on maybe problems or goals, specific goals that you have. So go ahead and write that in if you would like. I'm not going to share anything today. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a couple more seconds to think about this. I'll keep everything private for today. I see some people responding. Thank you. This is really more for you than for me. All right, and we're about to get into some background. So I always like to start with a little bit about me, because this will help you understand why these ideas are so important to me. So I was very much that introverted perfectionist in the classroom, and I'm a processor. I need time to formulate my response before saying it aloud. So having to raise my hand or being called on in class was really challenging for me, and it took a toll on me personally. It wasn't that I didn't want to contribute. It wasn't that I didn't have anything to say. It was that I didn't have the right platform. So on that spot thinking is never where I do my best. I'm an analyzer. I need time to think through things before speaking out. And that's where I found huge solutions in tech tools. So that's really what I've become very passionate about sharing. As a teacher, I've been motivated to create a classroom environment that I feel I needed as a student, but didn't have. For one, the technology we have readily available today wasn't something that I could have even dreamed of having when I was in school. And I think this is very important because the tools themselves don't do anything magical, but the possibilities they create are. Technology has really transformed how I can interact with my students and how they can express themselves to me. And that's what I want to share with you today. So obviously, a huge solution for me has been Mote. And one of the questions that I like to ask, and before diving into the tool, I want to anchor this work in lesson design. So for me, I'm constantly asking myself this question: how can we cultivate compassion in our classrooms through the intentional integration of technology into the design of our lessons? Again, it's not so much about the tools themselves, but rather why we use them and how we infuse them into our classes and our classroom culture. So if you would like to interact with me, if you're on and you want to interact, go ahead and tell me, have you used Mote before? Go ahead and move around the dot. Okay, so we have some people use it often. So maybe a lot of you who are on here today are already Mote superstars. In case you're not and you need to set up your account, I just dropped a link in here. And I believe that will give you some access to some of the premium features. I know there are some questions about what you can do with premium and not premium. I'll tell you, I've used both the free and I've used the paid before, and I'm able to do a ton with both of them. Yes, the premium gives you some more options. I've actually never had a school-wide subscription. I've just had the personal, like Eleni was talking about before. That's an option. It gives you more time, gives you some more features, but you can really do so much with Mote, and you can absolutely get started so easily for free, and so can your students, and that's something that I love. So it's really just a Chrome extension, you know, so you can use it anywhere. That's the thing. Like, you can use it in Google stuff, but you can also use it outside of Google stuff. And I want to show both of those things today, just a little bit of it. But what I really want to focus on is this idea of tone, student choice. I'm going to focus on three main things first: teacher feedback, student choice, and student communication, which actually there's also parent communication that hopefully you'll be able to see play in. That's what I talked all about in my session last year at MoteCon. Today, I'm really going to focus on the student piece and our relationship building with students. So first, teacher feedback. I think there's just so much power in being able to clearly communicate when we do so with voice. And we can also really make our feedback more efficient. And I want to show you how, because sometimes people say to me, oh my God, if I have to record comments to everybody, that's going to take so much time. I think it depends, first of all, on your personality. Like, I find that sometimes I get so tired of just typing everything, and I find that just communicating with voice is actually quicker, and listening to student voice is sometimes quicker for me. That may or may not be the case for you. I think it's really important for you to know yourself and to provide opportunities too for your students who might have different preferences. And this, again, is one of the things that I love about Mote, is because it does provide audio with transcription. And so that transcription piece, which I know I'm jumping a little ahead into the student choice, but that transcription piece allows students to choose if they want to listen, or if they want to read, or if they want to listen and read together. So let's jump into a quick example here. So here is just like a little Google Doc that I have just totally set up to set the scene here. And I have this other extension on. Let me turn it off quickly. All right. So say that we have this example, and this is kind of what it's going to look like. I'm going to copy it over so we can do it together. All right. So say that a student is submitting an assignment to their teacher. Their teacher, me, will be able to give feedback using Mote right in the comments. So say that I want to give a little bit of voice feedback here. All you do is open up the comment as you normally would. And as soon as you have the Mote Chrome extension installed, you'll be able to see this little option here. So you could type as you normally do, right? Or you can choose this little Mote icon. You just click it, and I can leave a quick little voice feedback based on whatever I'm reading. As I'm reading, what the student's writing, I can even scroll, I can be recording. As soon as I do that and press the comment button, you're going to see that you can listen to the playback and you can also read the playback because it transcribes. Now, there's certain times where maybe it didn't hear you correctly, or you need to just edit the transcript a little bit. Look how easy that is. You just press the edit button and you can easily edit. So let's see, I can just take out the and there. I can see there's a couple little mistakes here because I was pausing. But once you're done, you just press save and it will update it right away. And then when students go, they're going to have the same exact view. Just so they have that Chrome extension installed, they'll be able to press play. I'll tell you, I know their question always comes up, what if my students don't have the Chrome extension installed for some reason or it got uninstalled? They'll still see a link to the Mote. It just won't embed it so beautifully here. So it'll always be available for them. It will always be viewable for them, but it looks nicer. Mote is optimized when everybody has the Chrome extension installed. All right. So we got that. They can play. They can play and they can read at the same time. I'll tell you that this, when Mote came out and I saw that it did the transcription alongside the recording, I was like instantly so excited because before this point, there really wasn't a way to do that so easily. And it was a big pain point for the English teachers that I work with because they said to me that they loved the voice ability, but a lot of times when students went to revise their writing, that they needed to be able to see the text because they were revising the writing and they needed to be able to see what was written at the same time because they were trying to incorporate that revision as they were reworking their assignment. And so this really gives you the best of both worlds, right? So students can listen to you first, hear that expression, they can hear that tone. Maybe a critique that you have might sound very severe if it's just written as text, but if they can hear your tone, it feels more friendly and more welcoming. So they can listen, and then when they go to make their revisions, they can also be reading it so that they can kind of see both things side by side. So I think that's super helpful when we're talking about student choice too. All right, so the comments are there. What I also love is it is a feedback loop. So it's not just that I'm creating the voice note as a teacher, say that I leave some feedback, and then the student, maybe they have a clarifying question. Well, they can go in to that same thing and they can reply just like they would reply to any other comment. And they can reply with just text, reply with text. I have a question, and they can leave that here. Or they can also do the same thing that you just did as a teacher. They can reply with voice. Hi, Ms. Roshan. I have a clarifying question. If you could please, whatever they want to say. Boom. And now they can be replying with voice too. So they have both options and it really provides that feedback loop there. All right. Now, the comments, great. I love leaving voice notes in the comments, but you can also embed voice directly into your Google Doc. So how you do that is, there are a couple ways to do that. Here you can add a hypermote. Here you can just click on the Chrome extension. Can you actually see when I click on this? Hopefully you can. And you can just click to record. Here's a quick little voice note. Mote can be used on absolutely any website when you use the Chrome extension. I love that so much. As soon as you're done recording, you press the check mark, you're done. And then it automatically copies that voice note to your clipboard. When you do that, you just then, like you do any other like hyperlink, you can paste it in there. It pastes it. And then look at this. When I click on it, boom, right there. That's my new voice note. And because I'm not sure that when I do a screen share, I'm not sure if you can actually see when I pull up the Chrome extension. So in case you can't, I'm going to just take a quick screenshot and show you what I was doing just in case. All right, so let me insert that real quickly so you can see what I was doing just in case you couldn't see that last step. So all you would do is you would click on the little Mote recording in the Chrome extension menu, and then you can do that absolutely anywhere. So I always like to showcase that because that is how you grab a Mote and you can insert that hyperlink anywhere. If you paste it into Google Docs like I did, or you paste it into Google Slides, then you see it embedded. If it doesn't embed, then it would just open up in another window and you would be able to listen. So I'm going to show some more examples. That's a quick little overview of how I like to use both the commenting feature and the Mote extension itself right in my Chrome menu bar. All right, let me see if there's any questions coming in yet. Okay, I think we're doing all right. So the next thing that I want to talk about is, oh, and by the way, you can also reuse all of your Motes. If you just go in, you're going to see that all your Motes are saved, and you can find your recent Motes in there and you can reuse them. So there is that reusability aspect too, that is really helpful. So say that, you need to give feedback that is a little bit more informative for students, right? Like, here's the correction that you need to make. And whenever you have one correction on a piece of student work, you tend to have that same correction that you need to give at least 5 times over. And so if you create one extensive voice recording kind of explaining that improvement, then you can paste it all over the place and you can save these things for later, reuse. I love that aspect of being digital feedback is there's huge reusability, not just in the same year, but even from year to year, if you want to really record some more elaborate explanations, and you can build that bank over time too, right? All right, so when we get into student choice, I talked a little bit about transcription that I love, but let's dig a little bit more into it. So let me go back here and let's click, let me just, have a lot here now. So let me go ahead and delete this, go to a new page, scroll down. Okay. So when we're listening to this, you'll see that students have this ability to, that there's this ability to translate. And so when you translate, that's going to just translate the transcription that you see come up. Obviously, it's not going to translate my voice note, but it will give some ability, right? So especially you have some English language learners, if you're communicating with parents and you need some more language options, then that's all available here. And I'm just scrolling through to let you see how many different languages are available. It's really wonderful. So let's just choose Greek really quickly. And then you can see that we can listen. And it's going to be obviously my same voice recording, but it's going to then have it all translated. All right. So let's go back to English here. And then, yeah, it's just instant, right? And then the other thing is the playback speed. So I really like this, that you can speed up and you can even slow down the playback speed. So say a student's learning, a new language, they're in a world languages class. Sometimes slowing it down is really helpful. In other classes, students might do better by actually listening at 1.2x speed, 1.5x speed. And so they have those playback options right in Mote. So again, I think that's a super powerful feature there. And then the transcription, and they can read and or listen. And I emphasize and or because they can do both at the same time. Now, the next thing that I want to dig into is for student communication. So say I do have a slide here of presenting asynchronously. If you would like to read a little bit more about a really cool collaboration that I had a chance to do with one of my visual arts teachers at our school, where students used Mote as a first part of their presentation process, go ahead and check that out. The link is on the slide. Again, if you're in the Pear Deck, you're going to get all these slides. You'll have access to all of them, so you can join that. But I kind of explain this in very detail about how this example works and how the teacher set it up and how the teacher had students kind of explain their art that they had done. So they took a picture and they explained it. But then there was also this whole peer critiquing process. And that peer critiquing, again, could happen with text comments or with voice comments, depending on what the student chose that they wanted to do. So if you'd like to check that out, definitely do. But also for building presentations asynchronously, not just for presenting, but as students are preparing a presentation, say they're doing something collaboratively. Back in the day when I was in school, if I needed to do something with a friend, I needed to call them on the phone. I'm aging myself, I know, but I had to call them on the phone and we had to work through things. But here we can do it really asynchronously. So let me go ahead and take you to Google Slides and show you what I mean. So if students are all on and say that, they're building out a slide and they're like, I don't know, I need a new picture here. I don't know exactly what I'm going for, or they're writing some text and they haven't quite finished their slide and they need help from their partner. Instead of needing to do that in real time right away, they can just go ahead and leave a comment here and leave a voice note to the partner. Hey, could you maybe find a better image for me here? I need some help building this slide. Whenever you get a chance to work on this, this is what I need. And so they can leave that voice note, leave the comment, and then their partner can go in and really hear. They could reply back. And so it could be kind of like, leaving little voice notes to each other back and forth as they're working together, instead of it, again, just being text. It might be easier way to communicate. My last example that I want to share is bringing in Canva. So I love Canva for back to school. Again, this is what I presented last year on, was kind of sending a communication home for parents. So you can send a little newsletter home and you can easily add a little voice note. And that just makes it more approachable, friendly, and also it has those translation features that are built right in. So again, if you record the voice note from the Chrome extension, like I was showing before, if you record your voice note, you click to record. After you're done recording, you just go ahead and you paste in the link. So you get the Mote link and then you just paste it anywhere. Look at what happens. Where'd it go? It will embed directly in here. I think I might have clicked on the wrong thing. It'll embed directly in here. I don't know what's going on. It's not pasting at this moment, but there we go. It just, I needed to wait a minute. So it embeds directly in here, and look at this beautiful embedded player in Canva. When we press play, so we get that, you get the voice feedback, you get the transcription that's pulled right up. Again, you get the ability to translate in different languages, and you get the playback speed. All that's built in. So you could do a newsletter too. You could do like every month or so, send a newsletter home, what you've been doing this week, what's coming up soon, and you can add in a little bit of voice, which just adds that personal touch. And then the last thing that I want to share is you could do a little spelling like practice for students, but you can actually say the words out loud. So you can do the same thing by recording the voice. The only thing that you want to remember to do if you're doing this is remember to delete the transcription for these. So when you're recording the voice note, just go in, and you know how I was editing the transcription before, tweaking it a little bit, just delete the transcription for this, because obviously you don't want students to see how to spell the word. But this would be a great way for students to be able to practice their spelling, because they can replay it over and over. All right, I know we're getting to the end. Make sure, if you haven't already, check out the Mote Learning Zone with so many templates and ideas from amazing Mote ambassadors and other Mote enthusiasts. And if you would like to type any questions into the Pear Deck, you can. If you have some that you've left in YouTube, we're going to get to those. But I want to wrap up, and as well, so I'm going to move this into a student pace mode so you can move through the rest of the slides if you would prefer typing here. Just have a little bit of inspiration for me. And then a quick shout out to the artist, Michael Summers, who designed both the cover art for my book and also was the inspiration, obviously, behind my slide design. So I do want to give some credit there. And if you want to leave any questions here, and then I have some Mote tutorials that I've personally made. That's the last slide. You can click on them. You can save them for later. That's all I've got. We still have 5 minutes for some questions. If you have any, let me know. But also feel free to reach out to me afterwards. You can reach out to me on social media or on my website.
Stacey, that was fabulous, by the way. I love how you really went into detail on some of those things that are hidden gems within Mote. For instance, the translating, how to turn on and off the voice to text. Those are things that people just don't, maybe don't know is there. Like, oh, how do I leave Mote inside of a Google Doc? A lot of people think it's just within a comment. So I really love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if we have questions. I love how you've given so many great resources for people to go back through, like your Google Doc and just leaving the Pear Deck. It makes it so easy for people to go back because I know, everyone's probably still processing all of the things.
Yeah, exactly. And for those people who do leave a question in the Pear Deck, maybe you need some more think time. You're like me. I will respond to you individually. I'm going to leave this opened for until like the beginning of September, just so I know people are watching on video and people are at all different places, so they might be watching it. But the first week of September, I'm going to close the session. And then if you left any question, whether you were on live or whether you're watching the recording, I will respond individually to you in the Google Doc that it will generate later. You'll see how that works if you haven't used Pear Deck before. So feel free to leave questions later if you need more time.
I love it. And Stacey, yeah, that's a great reminder that all these MoteCon sessions are going to be live on YouTube for people to go back and watch. I know a lot of people on my team are like, oh, I want to do it, but I've got stuff tonight. So as people come and watch, that'll be awesome that they can still interact with you and ask questions and even come by and see like maybe the comments and reach out. So don't forget, if you're watching MoteCon, that you can pass this link on to your friends. They can watch it later. And really that'll just be continually open for you to go back and learn and be inspired by Stacey and all the presenters in these sessions.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for everybody who jumped in and commented and engaged. And yeah, thanks to you and the whole Mote team. I really appreciated this chance. And I look forward to learning from everybody coming up.
Thanks again, Stacey. All right. We'll go ahead and go backstage for now. We'll let everyone grab a drink or a snack and get geared up because Eleni is going to be presenting next and you're not going to want to miss it. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope that you are loving MoteCon as I am, and I'm just thrilled to get to hear from Eleni Karitzis. She is Mote's community leader, so she does coordinate and work with the Mote ambassador leaders and the Mote ambassadors. I can say she is just so helpful and honestly so non-intimidating, like just such a welcoming presence. So I have really just enjoyed that. And as we're all winding down here on a Friday evening, here she is up early, starting her Saturday with MoteCon, and I cannot wait to hear all the ideas shared. I can't believe I shared your template, but I hope that you share it again because it was so good. But Mote is not Eleni's only role, so I'll let you kind of share a little bit more about what you do. I mean, you help with Mote, but gosh, you have so many hats that you wear. I know you've got littles and even a little one that was even off to ballet tonight. So, today for you. So you're juggling a lot of things, and I'll just let you kind of introduce yourself and share.
Thanks, Brittany. It has been amazing to see all the educators, particularly in the US, come and share all the wonderful ways that they use Mote in their classroom. And that's what I love about this community. I came across Mote during COVID when I was actually at home on maternity leave, and then got to, really experience it and sort of learn from that. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit. This isn't my only role at Mote, so I'm part-time at Mote, but I'm also deputy head of junior school at my current school in Melbourne. But I'll talk about that in a second once I get through to my slides. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and any questions or anything, flick them into the chat. You can scan the QR code there to access my slides today, or just reach out if you have any questions. Now, before we get started, I am obviously from Australia, and here in Australia we like to acknowledge our country. So if anyone knows anything about Australian history, we're doing a lot to show our respects to our elders and the traditional owners of the land. So I just want to take a second to acknowledge the country that I'm currently presenting on. For any of those Americans out there, I'm not sure what happens in your country, but this is something that we do at the start of the day, assembly. This is evident. Our school has their own acknowledgement to country on all the classroom doors, etc. So it's a way of connecting to our traditional owners of the land in which we learn and play and come to school on. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Mote acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So if you're not aware of this, definitely reach out. There are so many amazing Indigenous picture books and things. If you know anything about me, I love picture books in the classroom and bringing them in to all areas of the curriculum. So reach out. I feel it's a really special time in education, particularly here in Australia, in acknowledging the traditional custodians and really connecting to land and country. So as Brittany said, my name is Eleni Karitzis. I am the Deputy Head of Junior School here at a girls' school in Melbourne, Australia. I'm also the Mote Community Leader, and I have done a range of other things. I've had the privilege of keynoting in about 6 or 7 countries around the world, as well as presenting at ISTE. Last time I was there, it was 2019, and I was very early in my pregnancy. So a few people who met me were able to pick it, but I was hoping to get there this year, but unfortunately, after COVID, the cost of flights are not great. So fingers crossed next year I'll be able to join you all again at ISTE because I missed. But if any Australian educators are out there joining us, I will be at EduTech this week in Melbourne, Australia, and I'll be presenting on the Google Teacher Theatre, sharing all about Mote. So come down, say hello if any Australian educators are joining us this morning, and reach out and say hello. So my session today is all about creativity and accessibility in the classroom. Now, I am a primary teacher, so elementary for all of you in America, and I'm going to be sharing a range of ideas, but also extending to secondary because my school goes from 3-year-olds all the way to 18-year-olds. So I work across all 3 campuses. I have the privilege of integrating tech and supporting teachers as well as looking at the curriculum, mainly in the junior school, but also supporting the senior school as well. So creativity is something that I am extremely passionate about, something that sparks that imagination and allows students to create and really showcase themselves in different ways. I think something that brings me to education is I was that student at school who really struggled. I wasn't that top performing student who just understood everything, and I like to do things differently. Even today, I'm not a writer. Give me an audience of 1,000 people and I'm more than happy to speak. I'm much more a hands-on person with my learning and my showcasing. And I think that comes out as well in the way that I showcase and do things in the classroom. I think as educators, we are always catering for everyone, and creativity, bringing that into your lesson ideas and enhancing that really helps. And it leads into accessibility. So my school I'm at, we have a lot of hearing impaired students. A past student actually has set up a scholarship for hearing impaired students to be able to attend a private education. So we have about, I think it's 10 students in our junior school, and across the school about 25. So accessibility is something I'm really passionate about, but this doesn't just mean disability per se, but it also counts for students who are ELL or EAL learners, depending where you are in the world, and all students. We know that our students have a range in our classrooms, so it's not about just targeting the at-level students, it's about targeting all of them. And I'm going to show you really creative ways today of how Mote can do that. So the first thing, and I know Stacey touched on this, and that's the thing I love about MoteCon, is you get to see all of Mote's features in so many different ways by so many educators. So I'm going to open up a little reading passage here that I have. Now, this little reading passage is about koalas. So koalas are an Australian animal, and everyone thinks they're really, really cute, which they are, absolutely adorable. But you may not know that they actually spend most of their time sleeping. Because they eat eucalyptus leaves, these are very tough, and most animals, they're poisonous for them, but the koalas can eat them. So here I've got a little passage that, a group of students may be learning. Now, here in Australia, we have a very big, at my school in particular, an Asian students arriving, especially after COVID, and a lot of their English is not quite there. So I know if you're in America, you've probably got a lot of Spanish students, depending where you are in the world. So here I've got a little passage, and as Stacey in the previous conversation had spoken about, when you highlight, you can see that you can add a Mote in the comment and record your voice, but you've also got Mote hyperlinks. So by highlighting and clicking on the top one that you can see here, it allows you to add a hyperlink. Now, I have done one here because a lot of students, particularly students who aren't your mainstream or even your general students, may never have heard of the word marsupials. So here you can see that when I click on it, it comes up with the recording of how to actually pronounce this word. And then what I've done is I've actually translated it into Mandarin. So then my Chinese students are able to translate that and understand what that word means. Now, I really like this, in particularly for reading passages. I'll talk about a bit of spelling later, but allowing students to add that, especially for new words, to extend vocabulary and also pronunciation of words. I feel Mote can do this within a Google Doc, which is really, really cool and enhances that accessibility to all students within your class. Now I'm going to go back here so you can see that there. Now, another thing that I love is I know Will have presented on this in session 1 of MoteCon yesterday. I haven't yet watched it. I woke up about an hour ago and it was about 2 a.m. I think he was on my time. So I'll catch up later today on what he presented, but he will have shared a bit Mote's new little tool called Conquer, where it generates quizzes for teachers. Now, within Conquer, you can export this and share this directly to forms. So you can see here, if you go to Conquer, then you create your quiz. So I've just put a quiz in about the solar systems. I've then been able to share this quiz. So you can share it directly with your students or share it directly into forms. Now, what happens when it goes into forms is you then can use Mote to add anything. Now, a lot of teachers always say to me, I can only add it for the title. But the great thing about Mote is with the extension installed, you can actually go up to your extension bar, click on it, and I'm just going to go grab one from earlier, just because of time. I know how much I want to get through today. If I just grab this Mote that I've already recorded, click on the share button, I can actually copy that link, and then I can simply paste it there. And then you can see it comes up with a little voice recording. So when my students then go to see it, they can click on it to allow all students to have that availability to understand the text, because not all texts are we testing them for simply knowing their words. Sometimes we need to support students, particularly our littlies in their first or second year of school. They may be able to answer and provide you with so many more answers, but they just may not be able to read it yet. So I really like enhancing the accessibility of everything by incorporating Mote into my forms, by including those Mote recordings in there and embedding them in, which I think is really, really handy. Another thing that I love, and I made a little video of this just for time, is sticky motes. Now I'm going to play this video and just talk it over. You will be able to see it, mute it so we don't have to hear it. But I know whenever I am explaining anything to junior elementary students, or in saying that, I even taught a year 8 class, which is 14-year-olds last semester. And even I would explain something and then I would send them off to go get started. And some of them like, what are we meant to be doing? And you just think, I just explained it. So this is a really amazing thing. When you have Mote installed in your browser, you can actually simply create a sticky Mote. So here I've got a website called Kids News, and in there I simply go to the website, click on my Mote recording, record on there, and then provide that link to my students. Then when they go to click on there, it gives them the instructions again. Now, this is really, really handy for students who have trouble concentrating, also for home learning tasks. So if you want your students to do some pre-learning prior to class, you can create a sticky Mote where they hear your voice with your instructions and then go get started. Because I know whenever you provide homework or home learning, whatever you call it at your school, you may write the instructions, but I can guarantee you all will be thinking in your heads right now, yes, I have that student who never reads the instructions and does not complete the task correctly. But it's funny, by adding a simple voice note, the way that it changes and enhances students to actually engage with the content and the way they produce their work afterwards is really amazing. The next thing I want to talk about is embed Mote. So obviously when you go up and you go to share, you can download as a QR code, you can insert it directly to Google Classroom, but you can also embed. And this is what I love, because not all schools use Google Classroom as their point of call. Here in Australia, we have a range of LMSs we use. I know teachers sometimes also use things like Wakelet, and Mote also embeds into Wakelet. But if you are in Australia and you use Schoolbox, which is a really big LMS here in Australia, or you use Canvas. I always go to say Canva, but Canvas, the LMS, which I know is quite big in the US. My husband's school uses Canvas. I've got to always get it right. I always automatically go to say Canva. But if they use Canvas, you can also embed a Mote directly onto a page or onto an assignment in there as well. So by grabbing that HTML code or the link, you can just drop it in and embed that in. So you will have seen in previous ones where it creates that little icon and then the little box where students can listen to your feedback, which I think is absolutely amazing, particularly as Stacey showed before with the translate with these. When you embed into Canva as well, you can actually see the translation. And this really supports also our parents. So at my school, we embed this onto our class blog page. So parents then can hear the teacher's voice of what has happened, or the students sometimes also give a reflection of each week. But then by embedding it and having it there, the parents can translate to their native language. So that allows for that inclusiveness, not only for students, but also parents, because I think it's really important as a teacher to include parents in the learning journey and to create that conversation of things that are learning at school continuing at home, which is really valuable and key for everything that we do. Now, the next little thing that I absolutely love, particularly for elementary, is student dictionaries. Now, I thought I would make it a little bit more interesting by using French dictionaries. So at my school, students from prep, when they start in 5 years old, learn a language and all the way through to year 6. And here I had my French teacher actually just record some key words and then adding the images to help expand their vocabulary. Now, in doing this, you can do this for any language. You can even do it for ELL or EAL students. For anyone wondering what EAL, English as an additional language, is what we call it here in Australia. It allows students to, hear the word in English and then see the picture to represent what it is. This is really good when we have students arriving at our school from overseas. The teachers set these up to allow students to engage and build those basic vocabulary and understanding of the English language. But obviously it can connect to when they're learning a second or third or fourth language as well. Mote is also really, really helpful for students in those final few years of school. So when I showed our languages department at my school, they were absolutely blown away, particularly when we were working remotely. Here in Melbourne, Australia, we had one of the longest lockdowns in the world, but also, when they've returned to school, they're still using this, allowing students to, in preparation for their oral exams at the end of the year, they're able to use Mote because of the 3 minutes with the paid tier of Mote. They're able to record their part of their oral, and then their teachers can listen to them and help with their pronunciation and correction, which is really, really powerful for students to be able to do that and send things over. Also for teachers to give information and students to practice different vocabulary, because that's always something, you know, I remember when I was learning a language at school, we would come to school and we would sit down and the teacher would speak, and then we'd get home and I'd be looking at it on a piece of paper and thinking, I remember I've got to do something with my tongue to get that right sound, but I can't remember what it is. So this is a way students can go home, click on it, and also include their family. I think that, you know, we can talk about it all the time. It takes a village to raise a child. And by building those connections between home and school, I think is really critical. Here in Australia, we know that the past 2 years with COVID have 3 years technically now, have really enhanced the way that parents are involved in student learning, and that parents are actually excited. They're not scared there. And now that students are back, I feel parents sort of feel like they've been shut out a little bit to school. So this is a nice way to keep parents feeling like they know what's going on and incorporating them into the learning process. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Now, book recommendations and personalized bookmarks. As I said earlier, I love picture storybooks. So in our library, I also help out in the library for information literacy at my school. And here we can have students create book recommendations. So we have a little Google form that students fill in and create their Mote recording. And then I simply turn it into a bookmark. So we have a spare iPad that they just do it in the library, and then I create these, and then I just pop them into the books around the library. And then as students go to borrow, they can then scan these little bookmarks and listen to different recordings. And the great thing is students who English is not their first language can record it in Chinese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, etc. And then they can use a translation to see and read it in English as well. So this is just a really nice way to engage all learners in the classroom and the library in particular, and really share that love of reading and books. So any Australian teachers, we have got Book Week next week here in Australia. So these are some great little book tips I thought I would include. The other thing is you can also personalize them. So we saw Stacey before. I'm not going to go too much into this, but you can create your own personalized bookmarks within Canva. There is a video here. It is up on the Mote Instagram and Facebook page. You can also go over to my Instagram as well at Miss Karitzis, and you'll be able to see it there. I just started TikTok as well. So this one is actually up there, I think, or it will be going up. I'll put it up after this session today, but make sure you check that out. I go through in a 30-second quick little snip of how to create personalized bookmarks for students. This is a great one to sort of entice students and encourage them to continue reading. We know that a lot of students don't like reading, and this is a way that you can personalize a little bookmark to encourage them, say, great work, I love how you've already finished this book and you're on to your next one, keep up the great reading, etc. And every student loves a little teacher personalized bookmark. Something else that I've used Mote for is our veggie gardens. So we've actually had students be part of the process of what we are putting in our veggie gardens. So we add the QR codes, and by doing this, our veggie gardens are in the playground. And when parents come in to collect their daughters at the end of the day, they can actually scan and see, and the students have suggested through the Mote recording and included some, tips of ways you can incorporate this herb into cooking, etc. So it's just building that community engagement for all learners. And the great thing about this is parents can click and translate it as well. So really cool, really amazing ways to incorporate Mote for inclusiveness, not only with your students, but also your parent community. I feel that sometimes sometimes we as teachers are so focused on our class, but in my role as deputy, I feel like I'm starting to realize that school is so much more than just the classroom. It includes the whole community, and engaging parents in the community creates happier parents, which means less emails and less complaints to you as the teacher. So think about ways you can incorporate your teachers this school year to feel included. Now, this is another little one that I love that you can have either you create as a teacher or your students. So here are a couple of my daughter's absolute favorite books. I think I actually shared this last year, but it's way too cute to not share again. And what I do is I've changed her books now, but I simply just record my voice using Mote of the story. And particularly last night, I was at an annual school music concert, so I didn't get home till after 10 o'clock at night. So I wasn't there for bedtime. And we have a ritual every night where we sit down and read, where this allows my daughter to simply scan the QR code and listen to me read the story. Now, if you play this video again, it is up on my Instagram, etc. I ring a bell in between each page turning so she knows when to turn the page. Now, I've done this with my 3-year-old at home, but you could have your students do this for each other. You could also have your buddies. So at my school, we have our year 6s and 5s buddied up with our preps and 1s. So they could actually read stories and put these on books in their classroom. So after lunch, when it's quiet reading time, students can go grab their iPad or their device, scan the QR code, and have their buddy read the story. It's also great to include this in the library for students who, their reading skills aren't there. They can simply sometimes just go and have a listen to a story. There's no harm in just listening to a story. You don't always have to read. It's just about loving those stories and everything. So this is a really easy way. You can even have students write their own stories and then record and add a QR code. They can take these stories home and share them with their families as well. So a really handy tip to do. Now I am running out of time, so I'm going to keep moving. For the upper students, you can add a passage of the book. When I was teaching year 6, I always found I never got around to every class to see how they were reading. And by the time they're in year 6, I know at home they're not reading aloud to their parents anymore. But it's really critical as a teacher to hear your students read aloud. They miss words, they mispronounce, they add different words, they sometimes are barking at text. But by setting this up as part of their home learning, I would just take a snapshot of the book, or I would even have them take a snapshot of the book they're reading. They would add this to the page and then record using Mote. I was then able to record a Mote back to them and give them feedback. So this is a really nice way as a homework task or even an at-school task for book club, etc., where you can have students doing recording their voices for you to be able to hear their pronunciation and how they're going. Here is another little collaborative corners. So engaging students in conversation in the classroom can always be a challenge, particularly when you've got students of a range of abilities and in your class. So whether it's language or learning disabilities, etc., you can incorporate all of them by using Mote. So instead of having your students write or put their hand up in a whole class situation, you can actually have them pop a question and have them record their response, whether they agree, disagree, etc. This then allows the whole class to click and listen to each other's feedback. This is a great task that you could set pre-learning to class as a home learning task or a quiet activity that they can set up and do. Now I'm going to fly through this one because I know Brittany shared this a little bit earlier, but this is a template. A lot of what I'm sharing, there are templates on the Mote Learn page, so definitely go and check them out. But this is a class book recommendations here. So we did this over the summer break for teachers. Go check it out if you are looking for a new book to read, but you can do it with your class as well. So as a welcome back to the school year, you can have your students go in here, add the book they like, and then they can either drag a Mote and they can also change that Mote, which I'll show you how to do in a second, and keep adding. So you can have a whole class recommendation. So when students or parents at parent-teacher interviews come to you and go, my child just doesn't like reading and I don't know what books to use, this is something that I like to use and then share with the parents, and they can work through it with their child. Your friend Timmy or Bob or whoever really liked this book and they've told us the reason why. That book I think might be an interest to you. So this sort of encourages other students to start reading. The next thing I want to chat about is a shape assessment. So particularly this is for little junior students in your class. Here I've added a little Bitmoji of myself, but when I hover over, you can see I have changed the Mote icon to me. So students can listen to the instructions there. Well, it will provide them with what they need to do. Then on each page, they click on the Mote icon, and I'm going to show you now how to replace that. So by clicking on it, you can right click or go up to replace image, and I'm going to search from my drive. I've already got that little bit emoji up there. You'll be able to see it will just go here to this one, and then I'm going to replace it, and it simply replaces it there. So this allows students to see you. This is me. Come listen to me first for the instructions, then they go and complete the task. This is a really powerful way for student assessment in the junior primary years, particularly for maths. So the next slide here, I'm asking students to tell me what shape this is and how many there are. So if I had this written, a lot of students wouldn't be able to read that question, but this allows them to do that. Now, what all they have to do is click on the Mote button, record their response, and insert that onto the page. Now, this is really, really powerful. Something that our parents love is when it is parent-teacher learning conferences or interviews, we are able to provide that feedback. They are able to listen to their child and hear how they are going in class. It is so much more powerful to actually show parents and have them hear from their own child rather than us as a teacher always telling them what we're seeing. Now, that brings me to the end, and I've got roughly 4 minutes. So here is all my details and the link to my slides as well. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I absolutely flew through that. If you are from Australia and you are at EduTech this week, come and say hello. But I hope everyone has enjoyed my presentation.
Lenny, that was fabulous. I really love how your passion comes through in partnering with families, like bridging the gap from home to school. That it just like resonates with me too, thinking of having a little starting school and just hearing that voice and the partnering from home to school, I think is just so powerful. A lot of people were commenting about how much they loved the buddy reading and then even how unique and personal the garden example was. So good. And those QR codes can be anywhere. I've seen them used like for teacher appreciation,
Yeah, we've even got it at our signing desk. So for a lot of our parents, the students' English is getting there, but the parents really have no English. So we add for when they need to sign out. So we have a little QR code to explain to them so they can read it in Mandarin and understand how to sign their child out. So it saved our receptionists so much time in just, supporting parents and making them feel welcome within the school. I think that's a really, if I had to move to China, for instance, I would struggle dramatically. So any way we can bridge that gap and sort of make the families feel included in our school community is really, really important to us. So reach out. I could keep going on and on with so many different examples. And I know a few people touched on a few things different times. So that's why I didn't go too much into how to create and make. Seeing the presentations already this morning or this evening for you over there, it just enhances what can actually happen. But I know we are running out of time and we've got our next presenter ready. So were there any questions or was it just lots of comments, Britt? I didn't get to catch
a lot of
them.
comments of like, I love this. This is awesome. I'm going to do this. But, I feel like you are the perfect segue leading into our next presenter, Alex Herrera, because you talk so much about language supports, making things accessible, like the dictionary. And I'm like, oh, my word, like that just ties in so perfectly. And I do want to remind everybody that's watching that you can go back and watch these. If you didn't get to catch all the sessions or you didn't get to catch the one earlier today, you'll be able to go and watch them later. If you have friends that like me were like, oh, it's Friday night, we have plans, because there's just so much good learning happening. Eleni, you are amazing. I really love your passion. It comes through whenever you present every time.
No problem. And I'll join again in a little bit. So enjoy the rest of the session. I think we're going to go for a quick little break and then we'll be back for our next presenter.
Yeah, we'll give everyone just a minute. If you need to grab a drink or something, we'll be back. Hey, Alex.
Hello.
I am so excited for the world to meet Alex Herrera. If you don't already know her, which you probably don't, because here we are with all these educators from all over, which is the beauty of MoteCon. But I have the joy of working at the same campus as Alex. Shout out Roanoke Elementary, Northwest ISD. And I can tell you, she is the real deal. Like, she has such a natural talent and just passion for meeting students where they are, personalizing learning, really making sure that every student feels seen and heard. And I know that you are going to totally see that as she shares today about her role and how she teaches a lot of emerging bilingual learners. This is Alex's 16th year in education, and she is pursuing a master's in library science. So I already just can't wait to see like how you're going to continue to contribute to the education world and to students' lives, no matter where that takes you. So if you want to go ahead, do you want to pull up share your screen? We can pop that up. All the educators in the world will resonate when Alex was like, I think my computer's freezing. I need to restart. And I'm like, haven't we all been there? Like, there's always something that, we're just troubleshooting on the backside. Okay, I'm going to add these in. Well, I am going to go backstage and let Alex share her amazing ideas. Don't forget to put any questions, comments in the chat, and I'll be back soon.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. Like Brittany said, I am a fourth grade teacher in North Texas. So happy to be here with you guys. Today's presentation is going to talk again about how awesome Mote is, but specifically how you can use it in the EB classroom to really enhance language and comprehension with those students. Oh, hold on. Okay. So I'll start off with just defining what EB stands for, that we've been using it in Texas now for a couple of years. It's a diverse group of students who range from beginning to long term, and these students have a language other than English as their primary or home language. So I want to start off with just sharing some challenges that EB students face in the classroom, and then we're going to discuss how Mote can really come in and partner with you as an educator in this classroom and really try to cut those challenges down a bit. So obviously our EB students struggle with language barriers, a limited vocabulary, often a fear of speaking, and then of course cultural differences. So we'll start off with language barriers. One thing that I really love about Mote is that you could provide audio feedback to their work specifically. And this could be, I've used often when they're sharing their writing. You can provide that audio feedback that they're able to listen to. And then because of this, it will definitely enhance their understanding of material, because you could be really personalized with your explanations and even clarifications. So you can only do so much at the front of the classroom, but then even if you writing conference or reading conference with students, when they are back to working independently, if they have that little, 13-second, 15-second clip that they can replay and it is specific to them, that's just going to be such a way to break down those language barriers for students and enhance their comprehension. It also helps bridge those language gaps because they're able to, you could also speak in their native language if you have that ability to, and just really start making those connections for them. So another thing that EB students face is limited vocabulary, and this limited vocabulary can sometimes hinder them from really excelling in their academics because they don't have that. So Mote, again, can come in and really improve that. So I've got this idea of a digital word wall that you can share with them. And then obviously it has the definition and the word in bold and then pictures. But I love how with Mote, you can come in and even share more than just reading it and provide more of that vocabulary. And then students, when they're doing writing, and this is a page from our digital science notebook that we're using this year. So especially for my students, I know that when then I ask them to do writing in science, which is a major push, they're able to go back and listen to these videos, to these Motes, and be able to further comprehend the vocabulary. And then obviously you have the opportunity to add even more words that would help them. And then we do a Freire model for some of our big words, and you can have all your motes all over that, and they can come back and reference it. And I know that that would really enhance their vocabulary. It's something that they can come back to over and over again, and that really partners up with them. Another thing that I've seen my students is just that fear of speaking. When you ask them to volunteer, sometimes they're really hesitant, but you give them a little microphone and a safe space in the classroom, and they are all about it. So I have really noticed that this has helped some of my shyer students have a voice that they know that I'm going to hear, but then when they're feeling brave, they can also share it with their teammates. So I do love that. I had a student who wrote about the Battle of the Alamo, which is a big deal in Texas. And so he had just moved to the U.S. Probably like a year before this. And so his vocabulary was limited, but as he's learning, his excitement for the language was really growing, and allowing Mote the ability to allow him to express himself was really great. I'll play a little.
Sometimes we're at the Alamo. They were here. And some days they shoot at the Alamo. But then one day they were so close at the Alamo, and a man with a trumpet started playing a song. The Anglos don't know that song, but the Mexicans and Texans know. Was the Cuello.
So he took the initiative and he went through his entire book that he wrote about the Alamo, and he moted every page. And I had asked the students that if they wanted to, that was something that they can add, because later I know Brittany shared one of the classroom libraries earlier that we did, but students who were really proud of their books added their books into their library that they'd been building all year. And so he went and took the initiative and put it on every single page, him reading it, which really made me happy, because this was a student who wasn't always sharing out loud with the whole class. And so this was his way to show his learning, and to practice that vocabulary. This is a student. He also had a little Meet the Author page where he added the Mote again. And then here's a page in science that we also used it. And so this was a student giving the life cycle of frogs, and
Life cycle of frogs. When a female frog lays eggs in a swamp, they stay like that until about 12 weeks or days. When a frog hatches, still not called a frog, called a tadpole.
She's really passionate about what she was learning, and I feel like Mote really gave her an opportunity to share that passion and added that little oomph to her presentation that she was doing. And so what we did was we played this instead of her standing up in front of everyone and presenting her slide. We played this Mote, and so she was bashful in the back, but still it was that awesome experience that she had to be able to share her words with the class. So even some further benefits of Mote is that it definitely supports different learning styles. You'll have students who are very auditory, some students who, need to read it, but then giving them that chance, or just the words, to be able to express themselves in different ways in their learning. Obviously, this is the huge one, is just oral language practice. EB students need as much practice as they can speaking the language and practicing it. And so that definitely encourages it, because they get excited about sharing their work. I love that it increases that teacher and student interaction, like we talked about earlier, Mote being a way that teachers can give that personalized feedback. I think the students love it when they click on it and they can hear you talking to them and they can replay it. Sometimes they'll look at me and be like, give me a thumbs up, like, thanks for sharing that. And you could, be as fun as you want or as educational. And it's just, I just love it. Anyway. And then also I've got the opportunities to improve pronunciation. They are hearing from a native English speaker how to pronounce the words. And so that is something that will continue to bridge those language gaps. I have an example here of some oral language practice in math. The students were building numbers, and our big thing in math early at the beginning of the year is reading 6-digit numbers. And so my students, we can either write the numbers and do them with words and practice out loud. But when I added this Mote option to this assignment, they were all about it. So, I'll play this little 7 second.
421,373.
you can hear my student reading his numbers. And so what was fun is I had them pick 2 that they wanted to read in English and 1 that they wanted to record in Spanish. And so that was a fun way of making it interesting for them. So all this, I hope I've convinced you that in the EB classroom, Mote is one of the best ways to come and partner with you. And so when you're going into implementing it, which it's just the 3rd day of school today for us, but because I had this presentation, I was telling Britt earlier, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna like jump on this right away. So 3rd day of school, I had my little kiddos at the carpet and we downloaded Mote as an extension immediately and then started going into this. So if you're going to implement it, you definitely want to start with introducing it, what it is, the benefits of it, and then those clear instructions and modeling the usage. So when I did that and I showed them how to use it in the assignment we were working on today, they got really excited. And so we did a practice session and then we talked about it. If you encourage that reflection after maybe a few tries and, you know, is this something that you guys like? Is this something that you could do? So we started it in math today, but then during science, they had to write a paragraph about what is a scientist. And so a couple of my students were like, can I do Mote for this? And which made me super excited because I was like, yes, of course. You could either type it or you can Mote it. And the fact that it was new, so they were all into that, but also like a break from having to write. But they don't realize that to me, I'm beaming about it because for EB students to be excited about speaking and also just taking that time to really reflect, they kept going, oh no, that's not what I wanted to say. Okay, it's stopping and re-recording. I was just beaming watching them because I'm like, you guys are learning this language so well. So, but that was off topic. The encouraging reflection is asking them, how do they feel about it? Is this something that they're going to want to pursue? And then obviously giving them that option. The peer collaboration, I had them when they were doing the math assignment and reading those numbers, gathering together, and then they played it as a game where they recorded the 3 of them reading the numbers, but then when they met with their math partner, they tested the math partner by asking them to read it, and then they would play their Mote as a way to see if the person read the number correctly, and they love that. That part of it. And then finally, if you're implementing it, I just put in there variety. Mote can really be in any subject. I've already shared math and science, and I know the ladies before me were sharing all about language arts. And so just in any chance that you can to provide it for them, a variety, it becomes second nature for them to just click and record and really practice their language skills. So I definitely want to encourage you. There will be challenges, but I think the benefits of Mote far outweigh the little technical issues that you may encounter. So a couple of students were newcomers in my class, so they didn't have the ability to the extension right away. So that took a couple of tries, and I'm not super like in the technical part of things, but we figured it out. And sometimes just refreshing a page is all you need to combat those technical issues. They were giggly at first and there was definite student hesitation, but when you provide a corner, we talked about the different corners that they could go into in the classroom. I even gave them permission to sit under their desks if they just felt like they needed to hunker down. That really took away the hesitation, and some of them liked working near the other one, but yeah. And time constraints, I know that's our big one. I don't have time to do that, but once it's in there and once they've practiced a few times, it really will just come and be a part of their learning. It's not going to feel like an extra thing you're doing. It's just a different way for them to show what they're learning. And then, of course, the language support. As EB teachers, you know that the more visuals you provide and words connected to visuals is always helpful. So when they are recording, if you're for example, today when we did What is a Scientist, we brainstormed a bunch of words that were up on the board. So they were able to look at those before they were going to write. And so then that's what led them to feel very comfortable with using Mote as a way to, to explain their learning. And so let me see. I didn't know if this is a time where people, Britt, I don't know if anyone had shared any like comments or any ideas that they've used in the classroom.
Mainly, people are just loving everything that you're talking about. I will say, I think some of the biggest just ahas and praises were when you were talking about how you make presenting non-intimidating for your kids by allowing them to add the moat and hear their voice. I personally love how you talked about one, just using it today. It's the beginning of the school year and your kids are wanting to share and speak, and they're EB students. Like that to me is just so cool. I love the choice that you give your kids, like, oh, you can sit here or there, just like getting their, like encouraging them to get their voice out and just to share because they have good things to share. I like that you actually played. Not many people have actually played the moats in their presentation, but gosh, as soon as you start hearing the kids' voice, you're like, that is the power of moat. I will say Miss Acevedo was texting me. She joined into the live stream. That's our assistant principal. So, great things to share. She was like, oh, I can't comment. But I wanted to give her a shout out and say, she wanted to say, excellent job.
Britt, and could you just clarify what EB students are, just for everyone in other parts of the world? Because I've had a few Australian people send me a message they can't add comments where they're streaming and watching from. And they're like, can they just, is that like an additional language, or just clarify for all our listeners?
Definitely. So we used to say ELL, English language learners, but now we're saying EB, emerging bilingual. So, taking into account that, yes, that English, we're not trying to get them to just, English, but that they're going to be truly bilingual. So it's changed the verbiage just to change the attitude towards what it is. But.
Yeah, no, perfect. I called them ELL learners in my session because I knew that's what it was called in America.
Absolutely, yeah.
In Australia, we call them EAL learners. So I'm sure it will change as well in another few years.
EB is new. We just started using that kind of towards the end of last year, I think.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. An amazing presentation. I think, hearing those students, and it really comes out with the passion in their voices, being able to hear that and that enjoyment. And I liked how you said that you set up different little places for them to do it. Whenever I share Mote, that's something that always comes up, that people say, how do they record when it's, everyone's recording together? And we talk about that this is a quiet time, and the students all move around and find their little quiet place that they feel safe. And I love that. I think it's really amazing what you're doing with your students. So thank you for sharing. I'll run away now, Britt. I just wanted to clarify that.
I'm glad you popped on. You can stay on. But I really love Jennifer Scott. Thank you for voicing in. It sounds like there's a lot of different terms that are used, all over, but she likes the change with the EV. So thank you, Jennifer, for being a part of the conversation. Alex, this was fabulous. Does anyone else have a question, or Alex, anything you want to clarify? We have one more session after this for MoteCon for tonight, and then tomorrow there are actually two different session lineups, one at 10 and then one at 2, I'm pretty sure. And those are going to be hosted by Aaron and by Rick, and they're going to be amazing. So we've got a great session or presentation lined up tonight, and then plenty more tomorrow. But Alex, any other things on your mind?
I don't know. I think that's it that I've got to share. If anyone had any questions, I definitely am up for chatting about it.
They can always reach out to you if things like come up later. They may just be processing, but mostly it was like all the love and not as much questions. So you must have been really clear.
Thank you.
Britt, we might give everyone a little break because I know our last few presenters, we were back. So some people might need to run and grab a drink, might need a quick little toilet stop. We've got one more amazing presenter for tonight, or morning if you're where I am. So go do that. You've got about 10 minutes and then we'll be back. I know, Britt, you probably need a quick little 5-minute run around the room or something because we've been sitting for almost 2 hours now. So we'll see you all again very shortly. And thank you so much for presenting, and make sure you check out all our sessions, and one more to go for our block. Britt, we're nearly there.
Yeah. Grab a break, everyone.
Hi everyone and welcome back to MoteCon. We are just having some minor technical difficulties with our final presenter, Katie. So just while she's doing a quick computer restart, I thought I'd just jump on and talk to everyone about Mote's programs and the Mote Ambassador leaders, etc. So at Mote, we have a range of teacher resources. So if you head over to mote.com, you'll be able to head over to our Learn page and learn all about our community. You are more than welcome to join our Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, where you'll be able to see the latest updates and features there. Now, you may have heard us talk about our Mote ambassadors. We also have our Mote educators. So this is part of our recognition of amazing educators and how they are using Mote in their classrooms. So the first one that I highly recommend anyone who has joined us for any of our Mote series to do is to jump on and then go and become a Mote educator. This is you can do this simply by filling out and answering a few questions on a Google form, and you can become a Mote educator. The next program tier that we have is a Mote ambassador, and this is where you create a video and you submit your application in to become a Mote ambassador. You then are able to be invited to different events. You're also able to come and join in these amazing forums and learn with a range of educators from around the world. This year, we are very lucky. We have also got 4 Mote ambassador leaders. So these amazing educators went through another process where they applied and were successful in becoming a Mote ambassador leader. So part of their role is they are helping run MoteCon due to the time difference that I have here in Australia to allow this event to run. They also write many of our blog posts and create a lot of templates for Mote as well. So these are just some of the ways, even if you're a Mote ambassador or just any educator out there, reach out to myself or any of our Mote ambassador leaders, and you are more than happy to add any templates or any resources that you have created onto our Mote Learn page. Mote ambassadors are amazing little group of community. They are from all over the world, and we all have a passion of enhancing teaching and learning in the classroom and supporting our students in everything that we do. So I highly recommend everybody check that out and be part of that. And it looks like we've got Katie. I just saw her pop up, so I'm going to bring her in, and as well Brittany to introduce her while I was filling in time talking about our amazing community. Katie, I must say, all of our presenters love technology, but I must say there's something about you could test it 2 seconds prior, but as soon as you are live, it's like it knows and just does everything against its power to hate you. And, you know, when many of us are meant to be seen as the expert in technology use, and whenever we do something live, it just doesn't work. So for those
extra
teachers who
fun
are
story.
Yes.
I was debating about presenting at school, and our internet was horrific at school today. It's like, oh no, I have to rush home. I'm in California, y'all. I just got done with my classes and zoomed across to get home to set up because, like, you have to have internet. Well, yeah, but I'm here. Hi.
It's always the case. And, you know, I think it's good, though, that sometimes some of our viewers who will be watching us today will be like, you know, I don't like using technology because it never works. And I want people to realize that it doesn't work for all of us sometimes. That's just what tech does. And, you know, I think it's important as educators, we show our students that sometimes it doesn't work and how we learn and grow from that. So I'm going to stop talking. Britt, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce, and we can get started for our final session for tonight.
Hey, you're not alone. Jennifer Scott, one of our participants, said, my internet wasn't working yesterday. So we're all in this together. But Katie McNamara, I am so glad that you are here. I just have to share, I feel like I know Katie just from a small email strand back and forth. We were using Mote because I was like, you know, tell me a little bit more about you. How do you say your name? And we were both saying, that's the power of Mote. We feel like we know each other just from hearing each other's voice. I know that she has a boy that just started school and she went to buy him some boots. And it just was like, man, you know, if we were just typing a formal email, you wouldn't get that piece there. So we're so excited you're here, and we are excited to hear from you, Katie. Katie, in her Mote back to me, this was probably not a part of an official bio, but I just love, she said that one of her jobs is helping other teachers become awesome. And that just makes me appreciate you so much that you feel like you can empower teachers in your role. So Katie's a teacher librarian at a public school in California, where she's the director of the teacher librarian, or she's also the director of the teacher librarian program at Fresno Pacific University. She's Google certified innovator and AASL Tech Troubadour. She served on the president of the California School of Library Association, and she could probably add to that list, but I feel like we just have the joy of hearing from you, and you're going to be a wealth of knowledge, Katie. So enough talking for me. I'm going to go backstage and let you share all that you've prepared for us.
Right. Thank you so much, Britt. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Now it's like, okay, the next step is my screen sharing going to work right? I think so. I'm going to stop talking just half a second, but I click the right thingy.
Hey, take your time. You're totally good.
I'm like, I don't like not being ready. Like, no, I did all this early and I was good to go. What's going on? All right.
I'll come on and distract. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going.
Whew. All right. We're good to go. All right. Hey, thank you so much for like being with me on a Friday, or if it's tomorrow and you're like Saturday, that's your vibe, or maybe it's next week and you're watching this with the kiddos. Like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing too. Going through some of these sessions with your students and letting them see some ways they can use Mote. Britt mentioned I teach too in a library, and I have library science students, and their job is also to get familiar with tech. So one of the first things they do is they hop onto Mote and start learning how to use it and get these really cool ideas. And it's made me so awesome. I get to tell about my friends, like, oh my gosh, Jennifer shared this. Oh, we're going to watch my buddy Isaac. Like, it's amazing. So blessed for everyone that's here. So let's get going here. Motivating minds, connections, and belonging. There's all kinds of these cool things to do. And you're going to hear it in every single session, but like, there's nothing like making those connections like voice. And we always hear like, oh, well, that message, that email, I don't know if it came across right. Well, I meant this, but it could be perceived this way. Well, once you hear the voice, it's like, you know, like, you can figure out right now whether or not I'm happy or bummed that I'm here. Like, oh my gosh, I was asked to do this thing and I have to show up. You know, like it comes across in our voice, and it helps you build these connections because automatically we start seeing similarities of what we're dealing with. So here's a few fun gifts from a fabulous movie. Go ahead in the chat and just drop in how you're feeling right now. We're doing this a lot during COVID, and just because COVID is, well, it's not like over, but you know, because we're back at school doesn't mean we still don't need these check-ins and people still don't need love. So go ahead and do, if you're feeling the 1, 2, and I got the chat hopping up on my other device here, so I know who's with me. Got some 4s, okay, some other things, and that's really cool. People still need to be checked in, like, oh, you do care about me? Well, not to be like critical, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I absolutely promise. But if this is where it stops, that's not much. Like, oh, we got a lot of 5s, or everyone's somewhere else. Like, good to know. I don't see it's you yet. Maybe you haven't started school yet. Okay. Now, if we do this, but the response is a Mote. What? Okay, so knowing that I have like a 5, okay, fine. But knowing why I have a 5 is another layer of that information. And then hearing their voice explaining with the emotion behind it, that's even a deeper level of understanding and a better way that I can go ahead and connect with my student. And it's so simple. I'm just asking them to tell me why. But that message to my student, to my teachers, whoever I'm working with, is that I care. Like, I want to know what's going on in your life and why and what's really happening. So as we're doing this, they're really telling part of their story. And that's how we build community. And if you've noticed, as you get to know people, it's really hard to like be mean to them. Like, you might be like, there's always that one teacher like, oh my gosh, they leave work all the time. Their kids get let out early and blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't believe that. If I did that, I would get in trouble. I'm doing like an extreme example of someone, but you get to know that person and find out like their mom is in special care and there's an issue with the nurse, and there's these 5 minutes between when technically she's supposed to let her students out versus when the mom will have care, and there's this lap of time. And so she has to leave early to make that happen. And even has permission from the principal, like, that's none of my business, but we're like judging, but we don't know the story. So we hit pause and like, just get to know each other. Like, yeah, And that passion, oh my goodness, like if we're not passionate about what we're doing, like please stop doing it. You're giving the rest of us a bad rap. No, but why we're sharing it, like all that we are like matter. And I'm in my first week. We started Wednesday, but I'm talking to my students like, you deserve respect. So there's something we're doing, like you can totally ask me about it. Like don't question like, oh, I don't understand why we're doing this. You're like, ugh. Like that's going to irritate me, but you're welcome to go ahead and have this conversation because you deserve respect, not even because you're a nice person, but because you breathe air on this planet with me. Like we belong to each other, and having that reminder, like that just shifts everything. And I want to be part of a positive culture and environment anyways. Like I've actually never talked to anyone that's like, oh, hey, I want to make sure my environment is totally negative. So how do I do that? Like there's not a session here about that. I don't think there's one anywhere. So extra bonus here, all these other things, and even like English teachers. And I'm going to call her out. She knows who she is. I have English teacher like Bestie, and she doesn't read and will not read an email like past 2 sentences. That TLDR, totally. But if I send her a voice message, yeah, now she's got it. And we're all like that too. We're busy, and our students, how they're getting information, and it just helps. So like, here's someone, we can get right to it. And here's just some examples of what some feedback loop looks like in Google Classroom. And so what I wanted to like hit with this too is just if you're like on the fence about Mote, it really works. It works with everything, it does, but it works remarkably seamlessly in the Google environment. So this is taken from Google Classroom, and I'm just right there giving the messages, and I can type fast because I went to school many, many moons ago where typing was a class. I can do my keyboard without looking, and the kids think I have like some extra voodoo magic powers, but I can still talk faster. You're like, yeah, I know you talk fast because you've been listening to me for a few minutes, but I can still talk, but I'm going to get more across in my verbal message than I am in a typed message. Same thing like when I'm doing feedback with a student. I'm not just going to be like, hey, work on this thing, or you can make this better. I'm going to go ahead and it just happens. And I'm not the only one. When we're speaking, we provide more information, even if that's not our original intent. And that extra information is what's super, super helpful. But I want us to look at this at another direction too. So like, yes, teacher feedback is amazing, making sure we're doing that feedback during, but to do this Mote feedback loop, let's go ahead and like, let it be peer feedback as well. They can have conversations and improve their work, and they actually should be doing that before I look at it. Like you can think about your students right now, even if you haven't got to know them yet this year, or if you want to think about last year's, like how much do they care what you think about their work versus how much do they care what their peers think about their work? Totally different scenario. And we're going to do things differently because of our audience. So doing this peer feedback also gives us some more authenticity to what they're actually doing. These are my babies. Okay. Yeah, sorry. How about like look at this and laugh. And I'm so glad that they still like care about each other. They really do. But okay, I love this picture. And it's not just to showcase that like I have these wonderful children, but if I had voice of this moment, this would be more powerful. And they're going to get older and their voice changes. And I just want to be able to have that. I got emotions. So having that voice like gets across more stuff. A picture says so much, and you can see and their smiles and what's going on. And Big Brother is definitely leveraging the Big Brother. That's very clear. But I would love to be able to hear them as well and have that memory that way. So we're still talking about those connections and a sense of belonging. Well, belonging is that you're safe to be who you are no matter what. You're not having to fit in. You're not having to change who you are, hoping to be accepted. And we're not dealing with acceptance. We're not dealing with tolerance. That's like, I dislike you, but I won't punch you. Like, no. We're going to go further than that and really try to get that belonging where I value you because of who you are. And your uniqueness is something that's a treasure. So even having them use Mote to get across what are your worries and what are your wonders. And that's such a simplistic question, but like we get deep with that. Like what's really going on? The responses are heavy is what I'm getting at. And it also opens up so many opportunities for further discussion. And you can decide what layer you want this at. Maybe it's in an interactive slide deck. and they can listen to each other and do comments. Like I mentioned, it's so seamlessly with its integration. So once you have Mote installed, and it still will work for someone to listen to it. If it's not installed, it's just easier if it is. So get that taken care of if you haven't yet. But when you open the comment thing, there's still that gorgeous purple. Like purple's a great color, right? Oh, there's that lovely purple circle. It has the M, and they can just go ahead and just click that and do their Mote, get that voice out, and answer these questions and share that with each other if they want. And having a back and forth journal with your students, or maybe it's the teacher. And I get this looks different grade levels. Like I'm not doing a teacher journal when I had 250 students. That's absolutely not happening. So I'm not saying like do this, but just giving these examples. And I'm not saying because you only have 30, you have to do it. But just think about this. Some other examples. If you have most of us have journals of some sort anyways, and there's communication, and maybe it does stay mostly written, but it can also be voice. And another cool thing about voice, some days that hair is just not quite rocking the way it should. So we don't have that stress. It's just my voice. It can be you any time of day, but like you're still being able to like build that connection, letting the teacher have some insight with the student and having that conversation. If you want to do it with a parent and student, or that doesn't make sense, sorry. Yeah, parent, student, and the teacher, you could have that going on and build a community that way. And when teachers know that we care about their students, sorry, that doesn't make sense. Or when parents know we care about their students, it is just a whole extra layer of magic. And it doesn't take much. See, Britt, I told you it's coming. Okay, so I think you heard her talk about this a little bit. I had never met Britt, like didn't even know who she was. Everyone come on scene. This is your moment if you want. Okay. So she's my host. Like, yay, thank goodness. She's a nice, wonderful, fabulous person. All the hosts are. But to introduce herself and talk to me a little bit, she sends me this email, and I get this fabulous note that I can just like click to hear her voice. And right away, I was convinced she cared about me. This woman has done nothing for me, nothing to me, don't know who she is, but because of her voice and the message I was able to get, I'm 100% sure that she cares about me. And it's just like, that's nice. Like, so I'm not trying to be cheesy at all, but there really, really is extreme power of the voice and building those connections. A kiddo is absent. What do we do? Like, oh, so-and-so's absent again. They're probably still sick. Okay, I know what they're doing. Oh, they're absent, blah, blah, blah. No. They're absent for a day, maybe. Okay, but 2 days, send a message. Super easy. Like, click that Mote button, send it. You can get the link into an email, send it out, however it is you want to do. And you can even have a message coming from their friends in the class for someone, or maybe it's the whole class. So you got a darling that's like sick. Like last year I did this with one of my, we were kind of obnoxious to her. She moved far away, like out of the district, and her sister was in charge of driving, but the sister would not get up in the morning. So this darling was always late. So it was like, we didn't know if she was late, if she was sick, or what was going on, but we would just like, not like pick on her, but you know what I'm doing. And this is high school. I would not do this with elementary students. I promise I'm not quite that evil. But so a group of us went ahead and sent her a message. It wasn't just my voice. It was also her friends in the class, her peers, saying like, hey, we miss you. And what that does, it's like, hey, we notice you're not here. Hey, you're important. Hey, you're valued. Hey, we're happy to have you back. Hey, we hope you get back soon. Like all of these sub things happen just because you sent this simple little like 15-second message. Like, hey, notice you were gone, blah, blah, blah. You know, don't just say blah, blah, blah. Actually have some words there. But yes. So if you're like, but how do I do this and manage everything? Because I've got a lot of students. I'm so glad you all asked. So I like using just a sheet to organize things. And here's just a piece of mine that you can look at. And I sometimes use different like apps, like different apps work for different things. So I can have a generic message to you that I send out to darlings that I need to send them a message. So this is all voice going on. So I've got like there, absent 3 days, it's an email, plus it's a Mote, because I just wanted to like double check, make sure with everything there. But what's going on there? And some of them I can leave more generic, especially if I don't know them yet, or if it's early in the school year, like I can still care about them without getting to know them yet. But some of these places, like I don't have like a direct link because I already know I'm going to make it be super personable, like the Peers one. That's going to be a unique one every time. But because I have this sheet, when I look at my communication plan with my students, I can see that because like when my brain was all together, I know if a kiddo is sick, I have a purpose and I need to make a note to do this thing. And I can go ahead and get that taken care of. Okay, so in the chat, go ahead and just like drop something. It can be an idea you have that's going to help further build connections in your class with your students that help get to that sense of belonging. Maybe you have a comment or a thought based on something I said, like, oh, you want to build on something too, because like everyone in the audience, like I'm seeing it, I can't keep up with the chat. You guys are amazing. So many great things there. So like get some more ideas so we can continue to like learn and grow with each other. It's amazing. I love the idea of students seeing MOTE goals for their annual evals from Isaacs. Thank you. That's super awesome. Okay, Jennifer, students like knowing that we thought of them. Yeah, I do feel like we all do. And don't forget about your teachers. The one down the hall, even that grumpy one, they still have a heart. Send them a message. It's so powerful. And I love doing Monday meetings. Like I really get excited about Monday. It's like, yes, I am that person. I'm not making it up because I'm like, Mondays are new beginnings and you have like new goals. Like even if last week was like a hot mess, like I shared a little bit of my week, like it's not going anywhere near I wanted. And I got this nice fancy lesson planner. Krista put together this fabulous one that's focused for librarians, and I love it. And I was like, I waited to write in it because I didn't want to cross things out. Well, yeah, my whole first week is already different, but it's okay. Mondays are still like that nice fresh start. Like, okay, what are my new goals here? I got this. And so having that meeting though too with my students. So if I have someone out, I really want to make sure they get brought into the circle somehow. So I can send them about like, hey, here are some things that were brought up. Would love to know your thoughts. If they're absent for like whatever reason, they can respond with a note. Super, super simplistic. If you stay in the Google land, it's even easier for them to respond because it's a click push of a button. And then Friday reflection, still like circling up in person, but like talk about like how things went and whatnot. And we have that. But again, if someone like missed, we can go ahead and have that note. And then what's really cool, if you got like a lot of students, you know, like more than 10, like most of us do, you can have them do this in groups and then make a group note, like collectively of all of them. So then you can like listen to that later and like, okay, really see what's going on. And then the Friday reflections like that, what I love listening to that later about, it helps me then plan for my next week. Okay, what did they think went well? What do they want more time on? What really stood out to them? And that's super, super insightful and great information for the teacher to be able to go forward with the next step. The bit.ly was shared at the beginning. And Britt, if you want to drop that link in there again for people, thank you, thank you. Our shared story, this is designed in Wakelet and MOTE integrates with Wakelet too. So I've got it set up with the sections like somebody wanted so, but then, and they can go ahead and just like have notes to tell that story that they're creating. And you can have it set up to where it's a carousel rotation. I would not like rotate the computers, let the kiddos get up and they rotate to the next spot and they can go ahead and discuss their story, that next little piece, and then go on. And like, well, why would I use MOTE? Why wouldn't I just have them type? Well, have you not been listening? You say more stuff when you're talking. And if it's real important that I need them to write, we can go ahead and do that. We can go back and forth, but the power of the story is the voice that comes out. And sometimes our voice doesn't come out right away when we're writing, whether it's typing or like pen to paper. So hearing it helps us prepare for the written part. Okay, so I told you I like Mondays. So here's something I was working on with my kiddos, and this is just a quick like getting to know you thing. So I've got my group, and here is a table and a slide deck. So it's super, super easy. They can just click and bam, 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 go. So they have their prompts. There's no names listed up here. It's okay. I know what group this is, and they're going to have a conversation to figure out who is who. So the top, they were just tasked with an image of their favorite animal, because that's easy. And that lets me know some more stuff about them. And underneath, they have the MOTE answering the question. Like, what? And they'll start seeing some similarities with each other with the type of animals, or like, that gets exciting. And then what I like about having this twofold, this is so great I get to share this with you because it was like new information. Like, what? See, the kiddo doesn't have his MOTE yet, but I can tell they started working. So sometimes even like to get talking, there might be a little bit of like, oh, I'm not sure to like speak yet. But this lets me know that, okay, they're there, they're thinking, they're almost there with me. I love the 3 C's: a compliment, connection, a comment. When we're looking at stuff, whatever it is, the kiddos create a poster, they create an infographic, they create a video, come back with these 3 C's and let that be their Mote response and that feedback. Super, super powerful. Motes for affirmations were not difficult, like just a little bit of like, yeah, you're on the right track, or like, yes, you're where you belong, or yes, I'm so glad you're here. Those affirmations go a long way. And all this is that connections for that positive impact of learning and growing with each other in this space that we share. So there's some contact information. I'm on most socials, sticking with Katie J. McNamara. I know everything's wonky in that world, but you've got choices. Email, Discord, and Boxer are more personal in a more closed environment. Blue Sky is, yeah. If you want more about that, you can let me know. But yes, you got all these ways to talk to me, reach out, and I'm serious about lifetime support. You have extra thoughts, extra ideas, I would love to know what you're doing and continue that conversation. Britt, are there some questions we should go ahead and address?
I feel like not as many questions, but more so just praises. And like, people are so excited about the personal connection and the voice. And I feel like what really came through in your session is just building that culture of seeing people and encouraging and appreciating. I know personally, I'm like, I'm going to use GIFs in every presentation and ask people to tell me how they're feeling, because immediately I was engaged. I'm like, yes, I relate to all these people we're with. But I thought, yeah, your presentation was just so fun. I love how throughout the whole strand of tonight, we've really emphasized connecting with families, and you did that too. Like the power of being able to connect with families, and just, I can tell your passion for, making everyone feel seen and heard and belong. In the practical ways. But it's so good. I'm trying to think if anyone has a question, post it in. But yes, people are just love recognizing teachers and giving personal messages, how the personal voice is so powerful. The Mote player embedded is great. They're saying, especially with the transcription built in.
Oh, yes.
A voice note sounds powerful and more valued than my written comment in Google Classroom. So true. Yeah. So good, Katie. I'm really glad that your technology cooperated so that you could really end us strong tonight.
I was like, maybe I just give you my link. Like, no, because it's the voice. And I'm getting reminded too, there is a QR code to scan. And at the end, if you want a certificate, I think that popped up, or it'll come up again. But like, thank you so much for being here. And I am sincere. I would love to continue the conversation and connect for the betterment of all of our kids, because they are all of our kids.
Yes. So good. Thank you, Katie. That was amazing. And like I said, your energy, yes, we could not have pulled off your slides the same way that you did with your energy delivering them. You did amazing.
Thank you.
I thought I'd just quickly jump on, Britt, and just remind everyone about tomorrow's sessions. We still have 2 more sessions for MoteCon. We have got our other 2 Mote ambassador leaders running them, Erin and Rick. And I'll put Erin's up because hers will be on first tomorrow. And then there's also a QR code on there. So anyone who tuned in today, make sure you scan that QR code to register for what sessions you have viewed or been part of for MoteCon, so you can get a certificate, because I know PD hours are really important to all teachers these days. So make sure you scan that so you can get recognition for this PD that you have done.
Hey, Jennifer Scott's here and she's presenting tomorrow morning. So hop on and watch Jennifer tomorrow.